Okay, so let's dive into this case
Okay.
from 1950s New Zealand.
Yeah.
It's
Fascinating case.
one of those stories that just gets under your skin.
Yeah.
Two teenage girls, Juliet Home and Pauline Parker.
Right.
And their friendship
Hmm.
was so intense, it ends in a shocking act of violence.
Really makes you think about the dark side of human relationships.
It does.
On the surface, Juliet and Pauline seem like ordinary girls,
Right.
but their story is a twisted journey
Yeah.
into obsession, delusion,
Right.
and ultimately murder.
So their story starts
Yes.
with this seemingly innocent friendship.
Right.
It's forged against a backdrop of shared hardship.
Yeah.
So Juliet, she was born in England,
Okay.
and her childhood was marked by wartime separations and frequent illnesses.
And those early experiences of instability and isolation,
Right.
they can leave a deep mark on a child's psyche. It's almost like
Right.
they create a yearning for connection,
Yeah.
a vulnerability.
That can make someone more susceptible to intense relationships.
So Pauline, on the other hand,
Right.
faced her own challenges growing up in New Zealand.
Uh-huh.
She battled a serious bone infection as a kid.
Yeah.
It left her with lasting physical and emotional scars.
Chronic pain, the side effects of strong medications, a strained relationship with her mother.
Right.
These were all factors that shaped Pauline's personality
Yeah.
and likely contributed to her dependence on Juliet.
So these two girls,
Yeah.
each carrying their own baggage,
Uh-huh.
they met at Christchurch Girls High School in 1952.
Okay.
And they were both outsiders in their own ways.
Yeah.
They find solace in each other's company.
And it's interesting how shared experiences,
Uh-huh.
especially those of hardship and isolation,
Right.
can create such a powerful bond.
Yeah.
It's like they saw a reflection of themselves in each other,
Yeah.
a kindred spirit who understood their pain.
But their friendship quickly intensified,
Right.
became almost all-consuming.
They retreated into these elaborate fantasy worlds,
Uh-huh.
complete with their own religions and social structures.
What's fascinating here is how their shared imagination,
Yeah.
initially a coping mechanism,
Okay.
began to blur the lines between fantasy and reality.
Wow.
It became their refuge,
Right.
a world where they could control the narrative
Uh.
and escape the perceived dullness of their everyday lives.
And it wasn't just the content of their fantasies that was concerning.
Right.
The intensity of their bond was raising eyebrows
Yeah.
among their teachers and families.
The school's headmistress even expressed concern to Juliet's mother
Really?
about the unnatural nature of their relationship.
Wow.
But her warnings were largely ignored.
That's crazy.
It's a tragic reminder of how sometimes, even when warning signs are present,
Mm-hmm.
people don't always know how to intervene
Right.
or recognize the potential danger.
So you have these two girls
Yeah.
deeply entangled in a complex
Uh-huh.
and arguably unhealthy relationship.
Right.
And then a major external force comes into play.
Okay.
Juliet's family announces they're moving back to England.
And this impending separation, it was like a catalyst,
Right.
shattering their shared world.
Wow.
They become desperate to hold on to their bond,
Yeah.
no matter the cost.
And that's when their fantasy world,
Right.
which had always provided an escape,
Yes.
began to offer a solution.
A terrifying solution.
A terrifying solution.
They convinced themselves that the only way to stay together
Yeah.
was to eliminate Pauline's mother, Nora,
Oh, wow.
who they saw as the main obstacle to their happiness.
So their thinking became completely distorted.
Completely.
In their minds, eliminating Nora wasn't an act of evil.
No.
It was a necessary step to preserve their bond.
Right.
A warped sense of logic fueled by their shared delusion.
Exactly.
And on June 22nd, 1954,
Uh-huh.
during a seemingly innocent walk in the woods,
Yeah.
they carried out their plan.
Totally.
Using a brick concealed in a stocking,
Right.
they brutally murdered Nora Parker.
The sheer brutality of the act is chilling.
It is.
The pathologist's report described 45 separate injuries,
Wow.
a level of violence that speaks to a complete detachment from reality.
Oh, my gosh.
It's like their shared delusion had completely consumed them,
Right.
erasing any sense of empathy or remorse.
And what's even more disturbing
Yeah.
is their reaction afterward.
Right.
They seemed cold,
Mm-hmm.
almost indifferent to the enormity of what they had done.
It's a glimpse into the dark abyss of their shared psychosis.
Wow.
A terrifying example of how a distorted reality can lead to unthinkable acts.
That's terrifying.
It really underscores the power of the human mind to convince itself of anything,
He does.
especially when fueled by desperation and isolation.
Right.
It's a stark reminder that the line between sanity and madness can be incredibly thin. It's a case that really forces us to confront the unsettling aspects of human behavior.
It does.
I mean, how can two seemingly ordinary girls
Right.
commit such a brutal act?
And that's what's so fascinating about this case,
Yeah,
is that it delves into the darkest corners of the human psyche.
absolutely.
So let's talk about the murder itself
Yeah.
and the trial that followed. I
Okay.
mean, the details are just horrifying.
They are.
They chose this secluded spot in Victoria Park,
Right.
and they lured Nora Parker.
Pauline's mother.
Yes, Pauline's mother.
Under this pretense of a walk.
Yeah, and they bludgeoned her to death with a brick.
It was premeditated, calculated.
It was.
And the level of violence
Yeah.
was just shocking.
It was, and it's clear from the evidence that they had planned this meticulously.
Dad?
They'd even practiced the attack,
Wow.
and they had this whole elaborate story prepared.
To explain away Nora's absence.
But their plan quickly unraveled.
It did.
I mean, their stories were inconsistent,
Right.
and the evidence against them was overwhelming.
And during the trial,
Yeah.
their diaries were presented as evidence.
Oh, wow.
And they revealed this disturbing world of fantasy and obsession.
The diaries were like a window into their twisted minds.
Either
And they documented not just their shared fantasies,
right.
but also their growing resentment toward Nora.
And their belief that she was standing in the way of their happiness.
The defense argued that they were suffering from a shared mental illness.
Folie à deux.
Folie à deux, yeah.
A rare condition where a delusion is transmitted from one person to another.
And it was a controversial defense.
It was.
I mean, the idea of shared madness.
Right.
It was a difficult concept for many people to grasp.
And especially in the 1950s,
Yeah.
when mental illness was still so stigmatized.
There was also a lot of speculation
Yeah.
about the nature of their relationship.
Right.
Some people saw it as a classic case of folie à deux,
Mm-hmm.
while others believed it was something more.
And their intense bond.
Yeah,
It definitely played a role in their actions.
it did.
But whether it was purely folie à deux or
Mhm.
something else entirely,
Mhm.
it's still debated today.
And the trial itself was a media sensation.
It was.
I mean, the public was both horrified and captivated
Yeah.
by these two seemingly ordinary girls.
Who had committed such a shocking crime.
And in the end,
Uh-huh.
they were found guilty of murder,
They were.
and they were sentenced to 5 years in prison.
A relatively light sentence,
It was considered a light sentence at the time,
given the brutality of the crime,
and that decision was influenced by a number of factors.
like their age, their perceived mental state, and the social climate of the time.
It's a case that really makes you question our understanding of justice
It does.
and how we deal with crimes that are so deeply rooted in psychological turmoil. It makes you think about the nature of justice, doesn't it? Was 5 years enough for such a brutal crime?
That's a tough one.
Or was the real punishment the psychological burden they carried for the rest of their lives?
Yeah, that's a complex question.
It is.
On one hand, you have the severity of their actions,
Right.
the taking of a life.
Right.
But on the other hand, they were young and clearly deeply troubled.
Right.
The judge's decision to focus on rehabilitation rather than pure punishment
Right.
was likely influenced by those factors.
Yeah, and that forced separation in prison,
Right.
as much as it was a punishment,
Yeah.
might have been the very thing that broke the cycle of their shared delusion.
It's paradoxical, isn't it?
It is.
The thing they feared most, being apart,
Right.
might have ultimately saved them.
Wow.
It allowed them to develop individually, to confront their own guilt and responsibility.
It makes you wonder if earlier intervention could have prevented this tragedy altogether.
Yeah.
If someone had recognized the danger of their intense bond.
Right.
If they had been separated before, their fantasies escalated to such a horrific degree.
That's a haunting question.
It is.
It highlights the importance of recognizing the warning signs of unhealthy relationships,
Yeah.
especially among young people.
Right.
The intensity of their connection wasn't inherently bad.
Right.
Friendship, especially in adolescence, can be a powerful and positive force.
But it's that line between a healthy bond and a consuming obsession.
Exactly.
That's where things can go wrong.
When a relationship isolates you,
Right.
when it distorts your perception of reality,
Uh-huh.
that's when it becomes dangerous.
Right.
And it's not always easy to spot those signs,
Yeah.
especially when you're dealing with young people
Yeah.
who are still figuring out their own identities and boundaries.
Their story is a reminder that we need to be vigilant,
Yeah,
to pay attention to the dynamics of relationships around us,
absolutely.
and to remember that mental health is just as crucial as physical health.
We need to be more attuned to signs of psychological distress,
Yeah.
especially in young people who might not have the tools or language to express what they're going through.
Right.
Early intervention, counseling, therapy,
Right.
these things can make a world of difference.
So where did their paths lead after prison? Did they ever find a way to reconcile with their past, with the families they left shattered?
Well, they both went on to lead seemingly ordinary lives under new identities.
Okay.
Juliet, now known as Anne Perry, became a successful novelist,
Wow.
even writing crime fiction.
Really?
It's almost as if she was grappling with her past through her writing.
And Pauline.
Pauline lived a much quieter life,
Okay.
becoming a librarian.
Okay.
They both, for the most part, maintained their anonymity
Yeah.
until the release of the film Heavenly Creatures in the 1990s,
Oh, wow.
which brought their story back into the spotlight.
It's fascinating how even after years of separation and seemingly normal lives,
Yeah.
their shared past continued to cast a long shadow.
It speaks to the enduring power of guilt
Right.
and the complexities of rehabilitation.
Yeah.
Can you ever truly outrun such a horrific act?
Right.
Or is this something you carry with you forever?
The story of Juliet and Pauline is a tragedy on so many levels.
It is.
A reminder of the fragility of the human psyche, the devastating consequences of distorted realities,
Right.
and the enduring impact of trauma.
But it also offers a glimmer of hope.
It does.
Both girls, despite their horrific act, were able to rebuild their lives,
Right.
to find some semblance of peace.
Right.
It's a testament to the resilience of the human spirit,
It is.
the possibility of redemption even in the face of unimaginable darkness.
It's a story that leaves us with more questions than answers.
A lot of questions.
A story that challenges us to think about the nature of good and evil,
Yes.
the complexities of human relationships, and the power of the past to shape our present.
And perhaps that's the ultimate takeaway.
Yeah.
We may never fully understand the motivations behind such a horrific act,
Right.
but we can learn from it. So we can be more aware, more compassionate,
Yeah.
more willing to reach out to those who are struggling.
Right.
And maybe, just maybe, by doing so, we can prevent another tragedy like this from happening.
This has been a truly fascinating and unsettling deep dive. The case of Julia Hume and Pauline Parker is one that will stay with me.
Yeah,
And I'm sure with you for a long time.
absolutely.
If you're as captivated by the complexities of the human experience as we are,
Yes.
be sure to subscribe to The Deep Dive for more explorations of the dark and the light that resides within us all.
I second that.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep diving deep